And so the story continues. Hello. We've got a centre in the chuck here. That's my pivot point. It's 3/4 diameter. We've got a needle roller bearing that's going to drop into that hole there. And what we're going to do is sandwich a bearing on the top here. But I need more meat than is in the base plate of this spare top slide I had. So I've mocked this up in plywood. There's limitations on this whole thing. I'll take this here all to the same height, mill out the dovetail and make this top piece fit. There's limitations. Rotation's a problem because I'm going to hit the chuck. If I offset this pin or the hole this way, and bring my cutter across, so my cutter's going to be holding this boy. So I want my cutter on centre, which is about there. I can offset the top slide across, bring my cutter along and get a little bit of better approach, but if I do, it's going to make it a right beast to make, and I don't think I gain that much. So I think I'm just going simple, stupid, about there, rotating around this post on the bearing at the bottom, bearing at the top, all held on this post. I'll thread the top of the post and put a clamping nut, so there'll be a bit of meat. I'm going to bring the whole deck level to that height. There'll be a bit of meat so that this whole assembly is just trying to resist twisting. Now look, this is probably going to change, isn't it? But anyway, first things first, I need a big lump of cast. It's tricky because this cutter, when it sits here, is more than halfway across, and when it's at about halfway across, half the tool post's hanging off this way. So I'm sort of tempted to do some sort of jiggle. Anyhow, first things first, I need a big lump of cast. Over to the mill. Alright, so here we are at the Big Tom, and this is my setup. I've got a 25 kilo tatty sack weight. It's clamped up for horizontal milling. I'm just slitting it down with a big diameter cutter. So we've got a 6-inch cutter. We're going on slow feed. We're in back gear, slow speed I've got, which is 50 revs a minute. I'll fire it up. It's the first time I've used it for a bit, so we've taken the plug out, we've oiled here, back gear's engaged, we've oiled down the lower bushing here, we've done all the oiling at the back. I've been cutting along and there's no heat here there's no heat here. Keeping an eye on my oil level there. So I'll fire it up, and you can hear this thing cutting. I'm cutting 600 thousandths depth, and it seems to be happy. That's just another angle showing you the depth that 6-inch cutter's getting down to. That's a decent whack, and that's going to guide me with my big angle grinder so I don't go off the wonk when I cut them. Okie dokie, we've flipped her over, and I'll put a different cutter on. I put a solid cutter rather than being like an insert cutter with interrupted teeth around the outside of it. This essentially is just like a solid wheel disc, alright? And the thing is, when you take your cutter and you're burying it deep into the work, and you see I'm going deep in there. The other cutter, because of its narrow gauge, because it was thin, I think it wandered off, twisted, and I cracked it. Okay, so no big drama, but I think this solid wheel is going to cut true and straight. And what I'm also going to do is make sure that I blow out the dust with my air blower so that I don't clog it and then choke the blade at the far end. So I'll be blowing it out with the air blower, and I'll have my vacuum cleaner on there. I'm not going to get all the way through, but then I might attack this with a big angle grinder. Alright, we'll see. Okie dokie. I went right to the hilt with that cutter. Now I'm on the hacker, and I've added a piece of wood to yon end, which helps me get a grip on it, get pressure on it, and not get my fingers cut, and not get my fingers stuck when I'm getting deep into the meat. So we're hacking away, and we've got a hacker modification. Look at that. Oh, alright, don't. And there's me hacker modification, and that is solid. It's just a piece of ash that's been fashioned and then walloped in. So that's super tight. Excellent. I'm going to flip it and hack it from the other side. I think this is why my shoulders might have disintegrated. Never mind. Right, hackaroony done. This worked absolutely great, and it's, you know, rock solid. I can hook my thumb around it, I can hold it, and it's giving me better control vertically. And when these cuts didn't quite line up, I could pull the blade and sort of cut on a banana as well. Everyone likes a banana. So we've sliced the base off there now. There's a few voids, but they're not too deep, and I should be able to drop those into a part which of the job that doesn't matter. I'll sort that out in a bit. That's the size I need. So first things first, I'll deck this side, then I'll deck this side, square up the edges, and we should be looking good. So I'm having a practice on the back side of the remaining slug. I used my face mill with the 4 inserts. I used 4-sided inserts and used my face mill with the 3-sided inserts. And what happened, it was putting a lot of heat from the cutter, which was getting real hot, up into the spindle, and it actually choked it, overheated, and didn't like it at all. Now I know I keep going back and trying these and I keep having failures, and that's on cast. So what I'm doing now is I'm coming back with the big chunky end mill. We're doing about an eighth of an inch deep, so about 3 mils of depth, about 100,000th over, so 2.5 mil, and we're doing 330 rev at a slow speed. And it seems that this is a happy place for it. We're cutting from deep to virtually nothing. Let's clean that up. And that looks real good. Let's zoom you in. Do not blow that blooming dust everywhere, because it is horrible. It's shop vac time for that. So there it is. We've got a nice finish. It's looking good. That's with a 6 flute end mill. So when you see on the internet, you know, somebody with a decking off something like this and taking a 3mm cut and it's 4 inch wide, I don't know, it's just heavier machines, and different machines are better at different stuff. Really, this is a horizontal machine. I'll have a little look around while I'm here. Again, right down at the bottom there, we've got the fan keeping the motor in the base cool. This was the extension piece that I had to put onto the table feed, because there's a riser block. There's a riser block on the main column, and that meant that the table feed was short when the knee was all the way down and all the way out. So we lengthened that, and amazingly, after 3 bloomin' goes, I've got that running absolutely true. So we had 3 goes at getting that drive shaft going. First time I wasn't quite bob on square. So you know, you've made an extension piece, I threaded it on, tried to get it running true, didn't work. So with the knuckle on the end. So then I cut that off and just made a slip fit, brazed it together, then refinished it on the lathe, you know, mounting it up, spending ages. I had the original knuckle. There's a taper pin in there which I can't pull out, it's tight. Okay, so there's the original knuckle that slips onto the drive shaft coming out of the gearbox. Great, I got it all absolutely nuts correct, and I measured the outside diameter, and all I needed to do was drop that in the top of the drive shaft, you know, heat it and drop it in. Anyway, I heated it, dropped it in, and it got sort of stuck halfway. I had it in the hydraulic press, and then discovered how they make these joints because I exploded the joint. So these are the bits, hang on, I'll show you those carefully in a bit, but essentially what you've got going through here is a central pin. That's why all you see is the head. That goes through a bush, and then there's a bush in the knuckle in the middle. So there's your knuckle. Right in the middle, there's actually a tiny bush that goes through there. There's a pin that goes through the bush, and there's a little bush at each end. So essentially what you've got is a floating pin. Anyway, having put it in the press, snapped it, I then took this to pieces. This is obviously still nice and loose, and I re-engineered two little bushes to fit the ends so that, you know, this got another lease of life. So I put two little bushes in, pumped the ends, and thought I'll get a winner there, and of course I didn't. So there it is, dead knuckle joint. My next thought was, well, I'll just take, you know, an appropriate sized knuckle from your drive kit and use one of these, work it and get it to do the job. But these aren't as sophisticated. It's, you know, it's really just a power knuckle. Lots of strength, but not the same range of articulation and finesse. All right, but at a push, you could probably get one of those to work. What I did in the end, online, someone was selling a Tom Senior drive shaft. This is out of an M1, so there was a knuckle on the end of this end shaft which went on the end of this tube here. So the knuckle was on this end. I sliced it off and fitted it to that very carefully. I used a heat fit, you know, it's like a just over 1,000th interference, and I heated it up, dropped it in, and this time I got it right. But you can see this knuckle here has been fitted on over the shaft, but at this end they cut two horns and put the pin through. So they actually fitted the knuckle to this shaft, and if I was feeling really clever, that's what I could have done to the end of my shaft, but I just thought no, I trued it up, got it absolutely bob on, and just sliced it off. So that's the story of my drive shaft, which doesn't finish there because it hasn't got a dust cover on it. So I've got the old dust cover there and the old cover, you know, there's how it works. But what I need to do is I need to remake this because the external diameter is not great enough for the extended ELT. So it's an ongoing job. That piece drops into there, so I will make a new ball and a new mount for the bottom end and a new ball for the top end, and we'll have it all protected. I'm just trying to keep the dust out of it. So the drive shaft saga, eh? Right, moving on. Alright, we're back to cutting. This is a 2 flute end mill. It's 17mm. It's a lot shorter, so there's less twist on the head. But it's still got the same, we're still doing the same cut, and actually I think it's doing better. Alrighties, we are halfway across. With the 4 flute you get a wide tram line at finish. Okay. Weirdly, with the 2 flute it gives you a much narrower, so it's the same step over and all the rest, so it's just where the way the cutter scuffs it off right at the end. You can't feel any difference. It's a slight difference, but actually fair dues, the 2 flute is getting a really much smoother finish. So you make your own mind. I like the 2 fluter, weirdly. Happy days. There's no heat in the knuckle head when I use the facing mills. I was cooking the bearings. It was, the machine was slowing, it was horrible, so not good. There's no heat in the horizontal spindle, which is good. Mid knuckle joint now, you know, absolutely looks the business and is the business, so that's great. I could go up a speed. So having practiced on this, I'm then going to deck that, and then I'll get on with making the next bit. And with that, super happy. Many thanks for watching. I'm going to go and edit a video, eh? See you in a bit. Thanks. Bye. Bye. Bye.